I want to focus in on something else because as much as we have seen things like elective surgeries or non-emergency surgeries paused again and again and again and again in healthcare, we have seen other pauses in the court system. We can talk all we want about tourism and how bad things have been in the tourism sector. Well, there are other sectors that have been trying to get through, and it's not necessarily a dollars and cents thing, but if you look at the legal system and what they've been dealing with, they have had to go through some very challenging times in the way that things are done. It's changing everything. So let's talk about civil and family matters and where that sits. Personal injury lawyer Jasmine Daya joins us right now. Jasmine, thanks so much for taking some time for us.
Thanks so much for having me.
We have seen pauses everywhere, pauses in travel, pauses in elective surgeries or non-emergency surgeries, pauses in the court system. When we look at things like civil and family matters, where would they rank in terms of the number of pauses that they've had to go through?
The unfortunate reality is that what we are seeing in the province of Ontario in the courts is not just a pause, but a huge problem with a huge backlog that is snowballing every single day that this pandemic exists. And unfortunately, the public really is unaware of what is going on because not a lot of people are talking about it. But I can tell you, because I am a personal injury lawyer, which is an area of civil litigation, and I live this every day, that it is not good. And it's something that we definitely need to discuss. The pause that you refer to was that for the first time in history, the courts closed for 6 months. So that was March to August 2020. That created a significant backlog in a system that already had a significant backlog. Making matters worse is that the courts really had an antiquated system. We were not using electronic filing. We were not conducting virtual proceedings. Everything was all paper-based. And you saw these huge stacks of paper being served here and there and everywhere. And on top of that, we didn't have an electronic filing system. So you had to send a process server to stand in line for hours to file material. So during that court closure, the courts did try to make some positive change. They've created an electronic filing system called Case Lines, which is being used by the Toronto court. Not all jurisdictions have implemented yet, but the plan is that they will have it in the future. And we also have virtual proceedings. So we are proceeding with pretrials through Zoom. That was when the courts reopened. They aren't open to the public, but we did have some positive change in that things could kind of move. And all of that came crushing down last week when the courts sent out a notice to the profession saying that virtual proceedings could stop and that we needed to stay at home and not move things ahead, basically.
And when we consider there was a backlog already, there's always kind of a backlog in the court system. It's not like something is filed and later in the day you can show up in court. It doesn't quite work that way. So what do you think is taking place now? Take us behind the scenes. What's happening now that we've heard you told to stay home?
Well, let me give you some real-life examples to put it into perspective. I had a pretrial scheduled for a client. So when you have a pretrial, it means you've already started a lawsuit, you've already got lawyers on the other side that are defending the matter, you've already gone to examinations for discovery where you've heard everybody's evidence, and finally, you're going to get a pretrial date. Oftentimes, it takes years to get a pretrial date in the city of Toronto. So we had that date booked in it was July 2020 that it was booked. Because the courts closed March 2020, my client's pretrial was automatically adjourned, meaning that it was canceled and would be put over to some future date because the courts were closed. I could not tell my clients when that date would be, other than, I'm sorry, it's been canceled. I'm not sure. As soon as I know, I'll let you know. When the courts reopened in August 2020, we got on the phone and said, look, give us a date, give us a date. After a lot of pressure, and it took a few months of pressure, we were assigned a date in March 2021. On that date, we had the pretrial. We were unable to come to a resolution. The judge ordered a second pretrial to occur in April 2021. So the second date was supposed to be last Friday. But the day before, we got an email notification from the court saying, sorry, the pretrial day 2 is being canceled given the new notice to the profession saying that virtual proceedings should be canceled wherever possible. This is hugely problematic for my client because my client was in a significant car accident, leaving him with a brain injury, leaving him with the need for 24-hour care, and he now has no capacity. He lacks capacity. He's a person under disability. His daughter's making decisions. I had to tell this family, I'm very sorry. Again, it is beyond my control, and understandably, you can realize what kind of stress this added to the family to not have closure, to not know when they would receive that closure. I can't give them any sort of assurance.
We're talking with Jasmine Daya, personal injury lawyer, about some real-life experiences with how things are working in the court system, so that if you know somebody who is having similar frustrations, here's kind of what it's like in behind the scenes. Now, when you're talking about the virtual system that was in place, could that still be working right now, in your opinion?
I believe so, and I'm very pleased to state that the Toronto court has said that my pretrial scheduled on another case tomorrow. We followed up with them. The Toronto court has said that the virtual proceeding will continue, so that's positive news. Unfortunately, not all courts in the GTA are following suit, so time will tell, but I do believe that virtual proceedings are not a perfect substitute for in-person, but at least they enable access to justice. They help the files move along. They help the backlog. They help the people. And that's really what the courts are there for, to serve the people.
Do delays like this wind up costing clients more money?
Yes, absolutely. There is going to be increased expenditures incurred on the file. The longer the file is open, we have to get updated records. We have to get updated reports. We have to file additional material. All of that takes time. All of that costs money. So you're looking at the expense that is incurred in terms of disbursements, so getting the reports and the records updated. In terms of fees, someone like me works on contingency fee, so I take a percentage of the settlement. There's no hourly rate. However, on the other side, insurance defense, the other side of what I do, they do bill by the hour. So their clients are for sure paying more in terms of legal fees. So yes, absolutely. The longer litigation takes, the more it costs everybody involved.
And doing things like filing a trial record, is there a cost to that?
Yes. So filing a trial record alerts the court that you are ready for trial. You ask the courts for a pretrial and trial date, which hopefully will bring the matter to a resolution. Each trial record right now in Ontario costs $810 to file.
Wow. Well, have we looked at anything, Jasmine? At least you mentioned we were able to look at the antiquated system and say, all right, how do we fix this as a whole? Do you believe somewhere out the other side of this there will be positives to take from it, or is that too far into the future given the backlogs and the other challenges and hoops and hurdles in front of you right now?
There was some positive news in the budget. The budget that was released by the federal government has put together $500 million over 5 years to reduce court delays and expand access to justice. I think that's great, except I looked at the list of where all the money is going, and I just don't see, aside from appointing some judges to the Superior Court, I don't see how any of the funds that have been allocated will resolve the issues that we as litigators are dealing with day to day in terms of the backlog. But I do believe that the more we talk about this, such as right now, just us making the public aware and bringing awareness to this issue, I believe that will prompt conversation and hopefully work towards positive change.
Hey, we love conversation. Jasmine, thank you so much for adding to the conversation today. We really appreciate your time. Keep safe.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Personal injury lawyer Jasmine Daya. So just a little behind the scenes, if you know someone who's been frustrated by something that has been tied up in the courts, there's kind of what's going into it right now, and it isn't perfect. Can they learn from it? Sure. But in the end, things are tied up. We've got backlogs all over the place that are going to take a while to come on out after we get on out into a better spot, into a better